This is the Living in Mid-Bloom podcast, lighthearted and heartfelt conversations about what it looks like to live, heal, and blossom in middle age. I'm your host, April Pruitt. Let's get our bloom on. The content of this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek guidance from your healthcare professional. This is part 2 of my interview with Beth Tomas. We discuss her cancer diagnosis, her concern for her daughters, and her nonprofit, This Girl's Story.
The one thing I have feared from my entire life, I do not want to die of cancer. And thankfully, at this point in time, I know I won't die of breast cancer. Hopefully, I'm free and clear, 6 months free and clear.
Congratulations.
I take my medication like a good little girl. I made it all the way through menopause with no hot flashes, and now I get them all the time. Oh, that makes me mad. Hot flashes suck. I didn't have them. I did not have them. I would go, am I having a hot flash? Is it warm in here? And people are like, yeah, it's warm in here. And I'm like, okay, so it's not me. Okay, well, you could be, my children are like, well, you could be surgeon, mom. I'm like, shut up. And then my friends had them and they would describe them. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm having. Oh, no, I'm having hot flashes now.
Oh.
But I'm like, I told the doctor in July when I saw him, I was like, I don't ever want to be told ever in my life again that I have cancer. That was the second worst day, maybe third worst day of my life. It was one of the worst days of my life. I never want to do that, but it was exacerbated because, oh my God, my children just lost their father 4 months ago, and now I got to go and tell them that their mother has breast cancer.
How did you find out, and what prompted you?
I am a poster child for mammogram. I was a good little girl. In the midst of my grief, I went and did my annual physical, got my blood test, got all kinds of. I was dealing with some other health issues at that time with my eyes, but I went and I tested positive for an autoimmune disease, and so I had to go and see a rheumatologist and do that. But in the midst of that, I had my mammogram, and they called me like, we want you to come back for another mammogram. And at the time that they said it, when they called me, it just sounded like I moved, and they were just going to retake it. It didn't quite register with me until I got the MyChart results. Microcalcification. What the heck is that? Let me go to Dr. Google and scare the hell out of myself. So I did. All right. Well, okay. So this is scary. This was before Christmas. My family was in for Christmas. I'm not telling them anything. My sister, who knows everything, she was the one I talked to. So got through Christmas, and my youngest is home for 5 weeks for holiday break, for winter break for school, So I'm like, I have another doctor appointment, but they were used to me because of my eyes and everything else. So I went and had the second mammogram, which was a diagnostic mammogram. They came in and said, we still see this. We need you to go for a biopsy. And then she was like, but listen, we're just ruling it out. A lot of times this isn't cancer. I mean, they're trying to assure me and everything, this is not cancer. Now, this is December 30th too, when this happened. And so I'm like, okay. As I'm walking out, the text, she said, Happy New Year. I'm sorry. I'm like, well, that was weird. And I'm like, you know what, Beth, don't read into things. Stop, because I'm very good at catastrophizing things. The world's going to end, and it really isn't. I have to call my sister all the time and say, take me off the ledge. That was weird. But then I was getting ready to call and make the appointment for the biopsy. They called me, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, so what's your schedule like next week? And they're like, we'd like you to come in next Tuesday. And I'm like, I have to work on Tuesday. I had a job at that point, a part-time retail job. And I'm like, I'm scheduled that day. And she goes, oh, okay, well, Thursday. I'm like, okay, all right. They wanted me to come in Tuesday. That's scary. This was Friday and I'm going in on Tuesday. The next week I had that. Even then, the doctor, they before they took the test, they said I had to sign a paper. This time they're like, your results by law have to go to MyChart immediately. She goes, I will not be able to look at these for some time. And then, whatever the results are, I won't be able to look. I'm going to always compare it to your other mammograms and whatever. She goes, it's going to take time. If you sign this piece of paper, we will notify you. They will not put it. This gives us permission to not put the results up on my chart until we call you and talk to you. And then when we talk to you, whether it's positive or negative, whatever the results are, we are always going to ask you if you have time to sit and talk about the results. It will be the same. So what they're trying to do is like, really, a lot of this doesn't happen. She goes, a lot of times, most people don't get, even with a biopsy, most people don't have cancer. So the odds are in your favor, Beth. Please don't worry. But because we want to make sure that you're not worrying about anything and you're not freaking out, we treat the news, good or bad. Whatever the news is, it's treated the same way, so you don't get any indication. But we can't not put it up on my chart without your permission. So I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be called. I want to be talked to. So it took, usually things come up very quickly in my chart and they call you days later. I had the biopsy on the 6th. On the 11th was when I got the call. And true to nature, I mean, the people were wonderful. I mean, everything was, I went home going, okay, probably don't have it, I don't win the lottery. Nothing's going to happen, So I went on and I went about starting my business, which I'll tell in another time. But I'm like, 11 days later, I get the call. She's like, do you have a minute? I'm like, yeah. She goes, you have ductal carcinoma in situ. She said, it means that it's cancer, but it hasn't left the milk ducts. It's not invaded the breast tissue. Basically, carcinoma, that's what I heard, carcinoma. I know carcinoma is cancer.
This is over the phone?
This is over the phone. I was fine with it being over the phone because she was very gentle. She had prefaced it that no matter what the results, I was going to be talked to in the same manner. They were going to call me up. They were going to inform me whatever it was. They were going to ask me if I had time to go over the results. So up until she told me what the results are, I was like, okay, all right, I'm getting test results. Fine. I like that I'm being called on this. And then she told me, she goes, I know this is what the outcome we were hoping for. She goes, but then she proceeded to tell me that it was small, that it was treatable, that it was non-invasive. So I had a very good prognosis, but that I needed to see a surgeon right away.
Is she an oncologist?
She was a radiologist. She was the one who did the biopsy on me. So she was there when the sample was taken. She was the one who informed me of the results. She goes, you need to see a breast surgeon and discuss what you want to do. And at that point, we didn't know, I hadn't had any genetic testing. She said, you may want to have genetic testing to see if I have the BRCA gene deformity. All of us have a BRCA gene. Some of it is a deformity. You're going to take your history and go from there. So, and that's what I ended up doing. I saw the breast surgeon and my sister came with me to that appointment. He was very kind. What I really appreciated more than anything, because I'm kind of an information junkie, he showed me my mammogram and I was like, oh, so he pointed out where the suspicious area that they were looking at, which was no longer suspicious. It was diagnosed with cancer. He showed me that there was some other microcalcifications, which I had been explained to by the first radiologist, not the one who diagnosed me or took my biopsy, but the first one who did the diagnostic mammogram, was that you can get microcalcifications from a seatbelt. So I'm like, okay. Things that take Beth off the ledge, because Beth can catastrophize. And then what he pointed out, he goes, if you look at this, he goes, not all of your chest wall is in this mammogram. Because everything he was talking about, I kept saying, I need more information because I have to make decisions now. He goes, I agree with you. He goes, let's do genetic testing. He goes, let's do an MRI, because an MRI will look at everything, including your lymph nodes. And so I did the MRI, which was fun. I'm claustrophobic. That's all we need to say. Did the genetic testing. Good thing, no markers in my genes for cancer. From what they tested and what they know at this point, there's no reason to suspect that I have any genetic reason to have. I'm just 8 out of 100 people 100 women who get breast cancer. Yay me! So my cousin had it. My first cousin, she had it. She was the one who had most of it. She had stage 2. It hit because it had gone to her lymph nodes. She is more. I think she is at 15 years survival now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That was on my mom's side. My cousin on my dad's side had it twice, but she had taken hormone replacement therapy, which can contribute to that. She had it twice. So I know I'm not out of the woods for that, but I've reduced the amount because of the amount. I ended up having a lumpectomy. That was the best surgery option for me. The good thing is that all of the cancer had been taken out in the biopsy.
Wow.
In the tissue that came out with the lumpectomy, which is why I say I am the poster child for mammogram, because it was discovered on a routine mammogram. We followed up, we took care of it because it was so small. My risk for it coming back is very small. I did not have to do radiation. And if I didn't want to, really, I didn't have to take it's called chemoprevention, the aromatase inhibitor that I'm taking that causes the stupid hot flashes. I didn't have to take that. But when I talked to the radiation oncologist, he's like, no, we're not going to chase you down the hall for this, telling you, you need this, you need this. He goes, but I'm an oncologist. We are risk averse. I'd like to see you do something. And when I saw him, I had not yet seen the medical oncologist. So I said, let me see the medical oncologist. I asked the radiation oncologist all the questions I needed. Then I asked the same questions of the medical oncologist. And I was more afraid of the medication than I was of the radiation. Everything I had read, was radiation was safe. It's controlled, and it's even better now because it's very targeted and it reduces the risk. And the medications, tamoxifen in particular, is connected with blood clots and stroke. And I'm like,
love these side effects.
Not genetically related to my husband, obviously, but you can't tell a woman who just lost her husband to a stroke caused by a blood clot. She might have to be on medication that can cause the same thing. It was bad enough that I had to have cancer so soon. Bad enough at all, but so soon after losing my husband and my brother to cancer. So I was very afraid of that. But then when I went and I met with the oncologist, she was very kind, and she said, look, if the side effects are intolerable, because there's other side effects like hot flashes and bone pain, if they're intolerable, you can stop. This isn't one of those things where once you start, you have to continue for 5 years. We'd like you to stay on it for 5 years, but if it's intolerable, not. So she gave me a 90-day prescription, said, take it for 1 month. If you can manage it, if you can do it, then you can continue, but you don't even have to fulfill a 90-day prescription. Just do 30 days. So she kind of gave me an out for it. And so I'm on anastrozole, and that takes, it's not tamoxifen because I'm postmenopausal. Tamoxifen is for premenopausal. There's your education for the day.
Thank you.
Radiation would have only protected the breast that was affected from the cancer to come back in that breast. It does not protect my other breast. The aromatase inhibitor anastrozole that I take, that protects both my breasts.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't either. Things you learn when you get cancer. So she convinced me, she gave me the out. And what's really funny is that when I went back for my 3-month thing, I was griping and groaning about all the side effects that I didn't like it. And this tiny little doctor, I'm a big girl, remember, this tiny little doctor dug her little heels in and very kindly, because she's a very kind woman, basically told me, you don't get to stop. Suck it up, Buttercup. You're going to continue on this, and I'll see you in 6 months. I'm like, okay.
Good for her.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm staying on this. I don't get the, oh, poor Bethy, you sweetheart, you don't have to take it. That's okay. We'll just
if your cancer comes back, we'll take care of it then.
Yeah. We're like, so we want to make sure you don't, and you're going to take this. I'm like, fine. You just house for the hot flash.
Did you stomp your feet?
Mentally I did. I'm very nice in public and I'm very, diplomatic. And so when the doctor tells me I'm a good little girl, I'm like, yes, doctor, I'll do that. 6 months. Okay. Fine.
Son of a...
Shaking my fist. So she, yeah. So, and I said the same thing to the surgeon because I saw him the next month. April, I have seen a doctor every single month since July of 2021.
Ooh.
If you count the issues with my eyes, which are related to the thyroid condition I was diagnosed with, I have seen a doctor every month except for June of last year. Oh, November, I didn't see a doctor either, but I had my tests done. So I had medical stuff. But yeah, my life is full of doctor appointments. So yeah.
Through all of this, were you considering or did you see a therapist?
I did. I saw, when I went to my annual physical in April, and not April, I keep saying April, probably because I'm looking at you, in October of last year, barely a month after Antero had passed, she made the mistake of asking me how I was.
Oh boy.
Out came the tears. I told her what was going on. And she's like, would you like some counseling? And at that point, my daughter-in-law, who is a therapist, was very saying, Beth, you probably want to do this. You've got a lot to unpack. And I hadn't figured out how to do it. And when you lose somebody, you're in a fog. So the doctor made it easy and just made a referral. And I did that. That one didn't work out. He was nice enough, but I looked at his profile and I wasn't his ideal patient.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. So I went with him a couple months and then I was like, I'm okay, I'm done. And so then I got a referral through WESOS and started seeing a therapist through there, and saw her for about 5 or 6 months. But situations arose, job changes, whatnot. And so by the time I was starting to feel like I was on my feet anyway, I had to end the relationship with that therapist. But I did, she got me through the cancer. She got me through the first 6, months of, not that there's a cutoff point, because let me tell you, there is no cutoff point. There is no cutoff point. I will never, ever get over losing Antero.
Oh, no.
I will never be finished with the grief. This will go with me to my grave.
How you're learning to live with that.
I started sort of like a poetry journal of sorts on my phone, because my phone's with me all the time, when Antero was in the hospital. And literally the first thing I wrote in there, and it was now kind of the title of the journal, is I look for stop signs when I'm out, because at this point I need someone to tell me what to do. Because I was like, I don't know what to do in this situation. I was so lost. And so I started kind of journaling. And one of the things I started in the past couple months is like, I have come through the fog of the shock, but the pain is still constant. And
like you said, it's been less than a year.
Yeah.
And there's so much to take in.
Yeah. In addition to losing my husband was only 55 years old. My brother was only 62. These are young ages for people to pass.
Yeah.
And it was out of the blue and relatively quick. So there was trauma to process as well.
A lot of trauma.
Yeah. So I did that. The journal helps. I have a spit venom journal. So when things become overwhelming, I can pull out that journal and start just writing what's going on. I call it a spit venom because there's nothing pretty in there. All my anger, all my anguish, all of that, it's a paper journal, so it'll burn easily.
Okay.
Yeah, the phone doesn't burn easily. So the phone is more, it's more because I'm a creative, I never wrote poetry. And now I tend to do, and it's what helps. And, one of the things I wrote in that journal is poetry is random thoughts spilled out into words.
I like that.
And so that's like my definition of poetry. one of the girls on my team, my editorial team, talked about poetry in the blog that she wrote. She wrote the first blog for the magazine, and she says how I organize something along the lines of how I organize my busy mind. And I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. I get that.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting how creativity comes out in different ways. Something that you hadn't really done before is suddenly helping you through this process.
Yeah.
And again, Beth, thank you for sharing this. I know there are other people out there that have gone through or going through, and clearly you have your family supporting you.
Yeah.
You use your humor to kind of push through some things.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Push through. Yeah.
Because there's no way around grief or pain.
No.
Even if you decide you don't want to feel it and you try to stop it, you stop it temporarily because you're going to have to do it. Going through all of this, you think you've learned something new about yourself?
I don't know if I've learned something new more than maybe I've affirmed what I knew.
Which is?
It's a psychological mind trip for me, because I can tell you, I've known I was resilient. I've known I'm strong, and it's just kind of been affirmed because here I am. Whether I want to be or not, here I am.
And you're not just here. You are living.
I am living. And so it's not lost. I says it's not lost on me that, through the worst time of my life, the most painful time of my life, I managed to get this magazine going. I get that. Yay me.
Thank goodness for the magazine that you created.
It is. It's thank goodness for the magazine, because it is not so much that my resilience that caused this magazine to be started, but more about how ingrained this magazine was. The day that Antero had his stroke, I was starting plans for speaking engagements to get people to invest into this adventure with me, to get people to help fund the startup of it. I mean, but
it's also a way for you to get your voice going. And you're going through all of this, have no control over it, but this dream,
it stuck with me. And that's what I'm trying to say is that, I pulled, I wanted to provide, I'd been working on this magazine for 2 years before Antero passed away. And so when my life fell apart, it was the one thing that was still normal, so when I was ready to, I don't know if it was necessarily ready to go back, but it was like, it called me back. It was my therapy, I guess, in one sense. I'm talking about this magazine to my family while my husband is in a coma. But what's really cool is my family is saying, go ahead and do this.
And so here's a question. Why would there be a question about you not talking about? I say that because I know the minimal amount of energy you have for yourself when you're dealing with loss of your husband or seeing him die. And that has to be 100% all grief. No one can survive that.
Yeah. My mom brought me up to believe that you must laugh at a funeral. It's important, that it's okay to laugh. And really, it's prudent.
Yes.
At a funeral. You need to find the joy in there. And so, we're sitting in the hospital talking to each other, and it's not all about woe is us, because you can't survive that you can't psychologically survive a constant focus on the horribleness that is going on. You have to find and do that. So I guess, like I said, I'm a good girl. I told you I was raised by a man in the military. I'm an Army brat, even though my dad retired when I was 4. I'm dutiful. I'm a Girl Scout. I'm dutiful. And so there's that weird thing that goes on, like, okay, I am the wife of this man who's in a coma and we don't know if he's going to live. And oh my God, I'm talking about a magazine. So there was that, but it is a part of who I was. It is who, I live, eat, breathe, sleep, this girl's story.
Mm-hmm.
So it made sense, but there was still a little bit of guilt that I'm doing that. But to me, it was more like, okay, I'm talking about this and my family's not beating me up. I'm like, what are you talking about this? He's sitting there, in a coma. What do you do? There was nothing like that. This can still happen. That's exactly what my brother-in-law said to me. He goes, this can still happen. It was the look on his face, the intensity in his eyes, some passion that he shares with his brother. Was like, it was implying that don't you dare let this not happen.
Because this is you.
Yeah. And
it's your voice.
Yeah. He recognized that, my children were good and stuff. So yeah. And I had gone to start about it. And literally I had the interview with the first girl on my editorial team the day I had the biopsy.
Oh, wow.
Biopsy at noon, interview at 4.
Stay tuned.
Moving on, not moving, but, stay tuned. That's a good way to put it. So to me, it was, when I talk about it, it's more like, this is who I am. This is my passion. This is my dream job. This is what I want. I so full body, mind, and soul believe in the mission of the magazine, that we provide a platform for girls to express themselves. And it's kind of interesting because I went through all of this. I met all these girls. None of them had any idea what was going on in my life. I have had meetings on a weekly basis. I've spent 50, 60 hours a week, 70 sometimes, from morning to night working on this magazine. These girls never had a thing about it. Magazine coming up is talking about, be proud of who you are. What's your identity story? And so finally it's coming up to September, and all I want to do is crawl under a rock, because I met my husband in September. I married my husband in September.
Oh.
My husband in September. September is not a month I am looking forward to. So I finally had to, I would tell people, my girls don't know about it. My team doesn't know about it. Why not? It's irrelevant to what we're doing, because really, frankly, it is kind of, in a lot of ways, I still think, irrelevant to what we're doing. We're talking about them expressing themselves. We're encouraging them. And I don't want to, maybe there's a part of me that doesn't want to burden, but it just came to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I want to be at these meetings. I have a partner who I work with that has already said that they'll take these meetings, and she said, whether you want to tell the girls or not, yeah, I have your back.
That's good.
Finally, the last week, what came out? And it took me, I hemmed and hawed. I had to turn the camera off. Even though they, I could see them, but it's kind of like, if you can't see me, I can't see you. It's like, and I told them, and I said, please understand, I may be weird in September. But I can't make you talk about your identity. I can't solicit stories from girls to talk about their identity and not do the same, because this has significantly defined who I am. It is a significant portion of my identity.
It's okay to take care of yourself.
Yeah, it is.
You have to.
It is. And so in one sense, I guess that's a good model for them to see, that sometimes you have to, they were so wonderful. I have a degree in speech communication. One of the first things I learned in one of my classes in my major was interpersonal communication. And when you develop a relationship, we called it balloons. You let little information balloons go, and how they are received by the other person that you're providing this information will determine how you proceed in this relationship. Is it safe to let them know this and share this with them? And if they accept it, great, you can progress in the relationship. And if they don't, then you're like, okay, now I know. I protect myself and I don't. This is as far as this relationship goes. Interpersonal communication. This was a big balloon.
Mm-hmm.
You let in front of these girls, and they accepted it really well.
Good. It's important.
Yeah. One of them said they loved me.
Life is not black or white.
No.
You showing everything's great, everybody. It's just not.
Yeah.
A practical. Yeah. It's just not a practical point of view. It doesn't work that way. Usually it's gray all around. Sometimes it gets darker. Sometimes it gets lighter. But you're sharing yourself with them.
Yeah. I really do love these girls. They are amazing. I mean, they're amazing, period. But wow, the love and support that they did. It took such a burden off of my shoulders, and it has opened up. There's more texting, there's more humanness in the texting between us. They've always, texted stuff, it's opened up the doors of communication. And I think that this will make the magazine that much stronger. It already makes them and me, but I think that we're a team.
You showed them that it's okay to be vulnerable, that you can go through pain.
It's actually,
and that you can.
Thank you for being vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of feel good about that, not just because of how they received and treated me, but because, I'm a mom. I'm not an educator, but I'm a leader, particularly of girls, and I believe in modeling behavior. And so I feel like there's a feel good part of this that says, okay, it was really, 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 really hard to do that. It was hard. In the moment, I was going back, do I really want to share this? I can walk out of this and stop this meeting at this point. I don't have to share this.
But why wouldn't you?
Exactly. Because I am a fiercely independent person, and so I don't want to unburden myself onto others. There's part of that. My mom was always
independence. Your children doesn't mean isolation.
Yeah. I'm like, all of these things, no, but you have,
I know,
June in my head going, you got to be strong for your kids, so I got to be strong for my kids. But being vulnerable takes a lot of strength.
Hello.
But it's still, we all have baggage. So
we got trunks. We got steamer trunks.
Yes. Some of us rent out storage units for it. But
what are those pods? This last part of my interview with Beth, we talk about where she is now and how things are going with her and her daughters. Hello, Miss Beth.
Hello, Miss April. I'm glad to be back here with you.
Good. Me too. It's good to see you.
You too.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm, I feel like
I know you're busy. Because I see you on LinkedIn, and we'll talk about this girl's story in a minute.
Yeah. Busy is, kind of an understatement. Lots of stuff on my plate. The magazine keeps me, going a long time. Long days.
I'm sure.
So,
good.
But it's all good because, I love it. So.
Well, when we had spoke earlier, we had covered so many different pieces of what was going on with you. And one thing you had mentioned was your concern of your girls and that fear of them losing you. How are they doing and how are they feeling?
They seem to be doing well. They are very busy with their own lives. And I think that, I was concerned about it, just so much because of in the beginning with the breast cancer, having to tell them that was hard, but they also watched me go through all of it. And so I've been able to, they've been, they're watching me, live my life. And, I'm just, I've come through. So far I'm still cancer free. I'm dealing with the other health issues. I have frustrations with that, but for the most part, what they've kind of gone back to in one sense to their normal lives in terms of, they're not quite so worried
covering
about
or
much. Yeah. But I will say, my oldest has, they came home to help me move the youngest to school. And I had said, I can do this, you don't have to, because I didn't feel like I wanted to put pressure on them to come, and it's a plane ticket from New York, and
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do that. And they're like, but Mom, I want to see you. I want
Yeah.
to help and I want to see, and I can do this, so let me. And so
Good.
that was a lovely trip, the three of us. And now I had
Good.
mentioned running away to New Orleans for Christmas this year. And the oldest one said, I want to come on that trip too. So now I will have
Awesome.
my babies with me in New Orleans for Christmas, and it's my first time ever there. I don't know
Oh,
if the oldest has been there. They travel, and I don't always know where they've traveled to. But I know
why
it'll
New
be
Orleans?
fine. Well, because my youngest has, since they were 6 years old, begged to go to New Orleans. They read one of those treehouse mysteries when they were in first grade, and it was a mystery in New Orleans, and they have wanted to go ever since. They fell in love with Louis Armstrong because of that book. So,
Oh,
my
wow.
19-year-old still loves Louis Armstrong and cried when I told them that we were going to New Orleans because they were so excited. It
Oh
was a dream
my
come true.
gosh.
So, and I thought,
That's great.
I don't want to be here for Christmas. This one
Mm-hmm.
is, we had the first Christmas, but it was so soon after he passed, and
Oh, I'm
the
sure
family,
everybody's still in shock and
yeah, so we're
yeah.
all in shock, and everybody came to us, and this year it wasn't going to be everybody coming to us. I mean, we would still be going with the Tomas family because that's tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, I think it was in August that I made that decision. August was a
That's
really hard month.
awesome. That good
I
for
said,
you.
let's see if we can swing this, and we could, and so here we are.
Oh.
So now I'm actually looking forward to Christmas instead of dreading it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
That's a great idea. That
yeah,
is really a
you
great
make up
idea. And I
online.
love that your girls were like, you're not leaving us behind. Here we are. I love that.
Well, my oldest was like, "No, I'm going too," and I'm like, "Oh
Oh,
well, okay, that's fine. You come too. That's great." And so yeah, it was surprising and fun, and I'm very, very, very much looking forward to it. I picked up a little art kit for the three of us. We usually put a gingerbread. That's a Tomas family tradition. We put a
mm.
gingerbread town together, and that's each of us makes our own little
Oh,
piece.
fun.
You can't do that when you're traveling because what do you do with it afterwards? So I thought,
That's a,
I was at a fair and was able to pick up from an art studio just little holiday art ornament kits where you paint stuff. And so my youngest is an artist, and we're all creative, so that will be our fun thing to do. So yeah,
oh, that
shh,
sounds great.
tell them it's a surprise.
Oh, okay. I don't say anything.
So
Well, I want to talk to you about your passion because I know when we had been talking about, how to take care of yourself through all of this, and you had been starting this journey on this girl's story a couple of years prior,
mhm.
and you felt a little guilty kind of talking about it while you're dealing with your husband, but your family supported you
Yeah,
in like you have to keep going. I
yeah,
remember you're saying his brother's like, you can do this, and you're doing it. I
yeah,
mean, you're doing it.
yeah.
So let's talk about this. So you're the founding executive director of This Girl's Story,
Mhm.
TGS. It's a nonprofit and it's a quarterly girl-led magazine that showcases contributions from all who identify as girls, ages 13 to 19. And I know this is your passion.
Mhm.
It's important for girls to develop their own voice and to build skills to help them become strong, articulate, and compassionate leaders.
Yeah.
So, how did this manifest? Why was this your passion?
Oh, yeah. That is it's kind of a conglomeration of a bunch of stuff. I was a freelance graphic designer. I've been doing graphic design for, close to 30 years now. And when I was freelancing, my favorite thing to do was to design book covers. And so I
Oh,
always wanted to find any gig I could where I was doing a book cover. And at the time, I was also a Girl Scout troop leader, and I was parenting a young child who was very interested in becoming a writer.
okay.
And so I thought, okay, so my youngest daughter was very interested. Now is focusing more on art. Still likes writing. Wants to become a graphic novelist. And so it was one of those. Okay, I love doing book designs. I'm working with girls. Oh, I can help. And I have a child who wants to be a writer. Let me put this together. I'd love to start a program where girls can write books, and I can teach them, get them through the publishing process, and I could design their book covers. But then the Girl Scout leader in me said, no, you're not going to do that, because you need to let them do it for themselves. So that's where, so it just all came together, just through the years of researching. It transformed from, I guess morphed is the word I was looking for, from being teaching girls to publish books and doing the cover design to doing a magazine. I happened to have a day gig at the time where I was putting together a magazine. It was more like of an ad magazine, but still the idea of putting one together and laying it out is the same concept. So it kind of made sense.
Well, and I got the impression from our conversations that maybe you didn't, or you were not in a position to hear your own voice or to have your own voice.
Well, yeah, there is that. I was silenced a lot as a kid, not taken seriously. I've always been kind of a dreamer. So there goes Beth dreaming again, But, I was also...
Which is a wonderful thing,
I know.
But I know parents are,
Yeah, get a real job.
Right. Get out of my house and make a living.
Yeah. What are you going to do with that? What do you want to do? So it was... I was brought up in a very authoritarian home too. So, children should not be speaking back to their parents.
Same.
You just sit there and be quiet and take it, and do what you're told. And so I just, I had a lot to say. I was kind of a scrappy kid. I was a mouthy kid, and I got into trouble a lot with that mouth of mine. And I know it's really hard because, people who've met me as an adult have seen me more as a quiet person. I don't know if quiet would be the word, but I still struggle to speak my mind. I take a lot of crap. And so I just feel like, learning to find my voice and to start speaking up and advocating for myself, advocating for my children. It started with that. I just thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had a way that girls, particularly girls, because, oh my God, girls are just so, from just being talked over women in corporate rooms to girls being sent home for spaghetti straps because of their distractions to the boys. They're just constantly silenced. I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could have something where girls can develop their voice, can develop and support each other while they're teens and they're forming all of this stuff.
Right.
These skills, so that they don't have to unpack this baggage in their 30s and 40s and 50s.
I want to thank Beth again for being so transparent and open. I know there are a lot of us out here that have had similar experiences, and I hope that this interview will help in some way, at least knowing that none of us are ever alone. Thank you for joining me today on Living in Midbloom. I hope you found this episode insightful, meaningful, and maybe it's given you something to think about. I invite you to share your positive reviews or ideas on topics you would like me to touch on by leaving your comments on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict. We are all divine beings who just want to be seen, heard, and loved. Have a beautiful day.